Welcome to Your Vibrant Life podcast with me, Alison Stockton, the founder of Vibrant Balanced Health, health and wellness expert, and author of best-selling book, The Woman I Am Becoming. Thank you so much for joining on this podcast, where we will be sharing every week top tips, tricks, and inspiration of how you too can live your most vibrant life. Stepping into areas of personal development, self-love, self-appreciation, spirituality, and becoming the best version of yourself and living your most vibrant life. We're going to share with you steps and advice on health, spirituality, self-love, self-care, self-worth, and how to grow into the most incredible woman that you've always desired to be. This is a space for women to learn, to grow, and to live their healthiest, happiest life with women who are here ready to support you. We are so happy to welcome you here. And if you feel so called to, please do leave a comment at the end of the show to let us know that you've enjoyed it. Share it with a friend or two and inspire somebody today to live their best life and to learn to love the life that they live. We are so grateful for you being here, and we wish you the most incredible journey into living your most vibrant life. So I am so excited to have my next guest on the show today. We are speaking to Juli Gaulthier from Chicago, and I have to say it that way so that I pronounce it right. And Juli is an incredible business and life coach who, by using her own unique energetic healing gifts, is able to connect her clients to their true soul and purpose to create a massive impact. She is able to draw her clients into their soul within their first session with her to allow true transformation to happen with ease. Juli, it is a pleasure to have you, and thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's just a pleasure. Now, Juli and I have connected, and whenever I speak to her, I get goosebumps because she has just so much energy and she is just so incredible. So hold on to your seats and your jackets because you may get those goosebump moments as well. So Juli, I just love talking to you, and everything that you share with me is just incredible. And just talk to me about what it is that you're doing right now.
Sure. So last year was a huge transformational year for me. I was able to create massive changes in my life. And by doing that, I'm now incorporating essentially what I've learned about myself and what my own unique gifts are. I've been able to take that, and now I'm able to walk my clients through the same process that I was doing last year to create massive change.
Amazing. But this has been a longer journey than just a year. You've been in business for quite some time in various degrees, but really stepping into your true power, like you said, a year ago. You've got a Harvard degree and you've done lots of things, and you were a teacher as well at home to your kids for a good chunk of your life. So, that's a huge transition in itself, to go from having these degrees to then being at home every day with the kids, your own kids, even more difficult than anyone else's kids, and navigating your way through that. So what was that like for you?
Yes. Actually, believe it or not, it was easy. And in my mind, when I hear you talk about it, it sounds so different, but it was kind of flowy for me. Mm-hmm. It's just, I've always had a goal of living an extraordinary life. Mm. And at age 16, I made the realization that what I really needed to do, and the key to life, was to be a place from being happy. It didn't matter if what I was doing was cleaning toilets in Grand Central Station, which was the analogy I used when I was a teenager, or whatever it was I was doing in my life. The key was to be happy about it. Yeah. And that started me on this personal development journey of this craving learning all the time, craving being more, craving to live outside the box, to live the extraordinary, and just not follow the rules. So, when I went to Harvard for grad school, I commuted and had 2 kids, and I was running a family business at the same time. And I made it all work, and it worked well, and I got straight A's, and I loved it. And I ran the whole rest of the stuff as well, because it was all about doing what was meant to happen, and following that direction. When it came to schooling the kids, it was, another one of those examples where I had been following society's rules and believing that I needed to do what they were teachers. They were trained for this. They knew how to handle this. So obviously they must be better at this than I am. And I kept getting signs, though, it wasn't until recently I was aware of what was really going on, but I kept getting these signs. No, you need to homeschool. My middle daughter was a figure skater and wanted to skate more, like hours every day. She was serious. And actually she skated with some of the top skaters in the US. She got that far. This was a dream she had from a little kid. I remember sitting in the car crying because she wanted to be an Olympic figure skater, like at the age of 6.
That's amazing.
In 3rd grade, she was walking home from school and her hand was blue because her shoulder had been dislocated. And they never called me. And it was like this moment of massive decision. It's like a sign from the universe for sure. You can do this. You know what's better, what's best for her. You can handle this. You can give her what she needs. And it's funny because, like 3 months earlier, she'd handed me a book in Target all about homeschooling. She's like, Mom, I want to homeschool. Tara Lipinski homeschooled. This is what's going to happen. And I'm like, okay, I'll buy the book, but I don't know if we're going there. Yeah. And everything kept happening. So the homeschooling is just, and then I homeschooled for 15 years with them. It was just another part of this.
You missed out that crucial part that I know this bit, that you didn't just homeschool one of them, you homeschooled 3 of them.
I homeschooled 3 of them and several of them. So, but it was easier. You get more kids in there that can bounce things off of each other. And, we quickly, within a couple of years, went into unschooling, which is child-led learning. It doesn't mean that we didn't do official math and science, but, they were really in charge of what they were learning. And it was all about, every day was, what is it you're curious about? What do you want to, we had a mission statement. And I think this is key. We had a mission statement. They need to love to read. They need to love to learn. And our outcome is happy, healthy, contributing adults, who can function in this world in a fabulous way, And so if they love to read and they love to learn, whatever we missed, they'd go and figure out. Yeah, and it has worked. They're grown. They're 21, 27, and 31, and it has worked. If we've missed something, they just go take a college class, or they go read a book, or they go figure it out on their own. And for the most part, they're happy, healthy, contributing adults. So that was the goal. There was a goal. And I would have added money mindset in there, but I didn't totally understand all of that at that point.
Yeah, well, but when that's incredible that you did that. And like you said, they've gone on to be normal functioning adults that are happy to learn and, giving back to their communities and, having a purpose in their life. And you spent 15 years of your life doing that. And in between that, you were still running a business.
Yes, my husband was a chiropractor and we had a natural health care clinic, and I ran the back end part of that business. So some of the marketing stuff, some of the management stuff, I'm a big picture person. So I would see what needs to happen next in terms of growth and all this other stuff. And my husband, he was all about very detail oriented. He was super good with the patients, but he did not have a business mind. So, it was all about, every day we would meet for this 2.5 hour lunch. And part of that we would talk about business, and part of it we would gather as a family. So the kids grew up in these meetings. So they got this. I love
that. Of course, because they're at home, you can do that. You've got that flexibility.
Yes. And so, he's a morning person and I'm a night person. And so it was just this perfect synergy of lunchtime meeting every day. And that was our quality time, both for the business and the family. And then we'd go on, do our different tasks, whether it was my big picture CFO stuff, or if it was, whatever we needed to get done in the business. And we were working with the kids, and it just flowed. And it was a 7-figure business for years. And yeah, it was, at one time, in 9 weeks, we were able to increase the income by $500,000. And we did it because we delegated, and it was about thinking outside the box instead of getting into the house and trying to get stuff done and all these other elements.
But there's another little secret behind that. And you went to see one of my idols and mentors who I live every day to listen to at least one podcast from him and one iTunes show. So, you went on the Tony Robbins experience, didn't you, to make that game change in your business?
Yes, actually, we were highly involved with Tony Robbins for 4 years, and I just immersed myself. One of the things he teaches is about mastery. It's like, great, give me the stuff. It's great. We can come home from the first event and you got the Tony high, right? And life is great. But then if you don't master these concepts, they don't stick with you. So I really invested myself into mastering all of his processes and everything that was going on. And that massive growth happened. And we went to Business Mastery 2. At that point, he had a second level. We went to Fiji in a room of 200 other high-level entrepreneurs and just really got his gift of Toniness, how he is. And just came home and took massive action. I doubled my business in like 3.5, 4 weeks. Of course, mine was much smaller than my husband's. And we took my husband's clinic, $500,000 of income for the end of that year, made it all happen within that 9 weeks.
That's incredible. That is incredible. And, he is just infectious because you do have to listen. And it's like you say, you have to incorporate it. You have to put all that energy into it and you have to make the shifts. Otherwise you can sit there all you like, but if you're not going to do anything with it, then nothing happens. You've got to want to make that change. So how did your life change by doing that and then having to incorporate all of that day to day? Like you said, you would just literally, you just breathed it all in and then put it into the business. So what kind of steps did you take?
So it's very interesting. We signed up with Business Mastery thinking we were just going to go to a business seminar. Oh, little did we know. And of course, that came with a ticket for UPW, which is an introductory program. And I recommend everybody, it's the one where you go walk on fire and the whole 9 yards. And, going to that was like, oh, it's just, we're doing this. Another convention, right? So 9 days earlier, I'd actually had a tumor removed. And I know now from all the things I've been doing recently that it was stored energy from negative things that had happened in my past. And so I had gotten rid of this tumor. So I'd released this, we thought I had appendicitis. Otherwise, obviously we're very natural. We thought my appendix would burst. I would have probably gone another route, more holistic route to eliminate the energy behind what was going on with that tumor. But I'd had the surgery, went to this Tony Robbins event. Of course, he wants you to jump him down. So I'm not able to invest myself that much. But as he started to talk, it was so interesting. I remember sitting in there having no idea what I was getting myself into. But within the first hour, he was speaking my language. And there weren't people in my life that thought this way. And it was like, I need more of this. I need to be in this community. I need this. The way he spoke about the educational system and why people were homeschooling were so different from, there were other homeschoolers where we lived, but they were doing it for religious reasons for the most part. And I was doing it because of the extraordinary life. It's like, there's something more, there's something bigger out there. And
you traveled with them too, didn't you? You were able to travel when you wanted to because you weren't conforming to their times.
Absolutely. We traveled all year. Like we did American history in the springtime when all the stuff started opening up. But before all the crowds came in, we spent 2.5 weeks doing American history up and down the coast.
Amazing. That's just a life experience that you embrace that so much more than sitting behind a classroom, 4 walls and being bored, brainless.
Yes.
I love that you did that.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oh, to go back to, sorry.
Yeah, we just deflected a little bit.
Yeah, but what I did with the Tony Robbins is I got tapes I got the RPM tapes. So I started playing those in the car every day. He had recommendations for, at first it was so hard because it was so alien, but you have to rewrite your brain and the way you think what normal is. And that's the key. We just have to rewrite what we think normal is. To shift our expectations, shift what standard is. The first thing I did is I became a vegetarian because I knew part of that tumor issue. That's where I was getting into that. Sorry. Part of that issue had to do with the meat and the fact that the U.S. has so messed with our food. Growth hormones and the antibiotics and GMO, all this stuff. It's not healthy for us. I know it had major issue on our body. And then he did this whole day on how what we put into our body influences our energy.
Totally. And too many people just don't understand that yet or are not willing to be open to realize that it happens and it has such a huge effect. But it totally does. And, veganism and vegetarian, and just change the subject again slightly, is not for everybody, but sometimes you need to listen to your body. And it's been, like you said, you went the holistic approach and being able to be empowered enough to say, do you know what, this is what my body needs. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. It made all the difference for me. All the difference. It was a huge first step, and it was a commitment to myself. It was like a self-care commitment. So, okay, what else with him? So I committed myself to listening to something of his every day, which you're already doing. So you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Then the next thing for me was getting into that morning routine of doing something in the morning. And it has switched over the years, but it always includes gratitude. It always includes journaling and meditation. It always includes getting someone else's higher level thinking into my brain. Sometimes it's Tony tapes, sometimes it's reading a book. I use various different things at different times. It usually incorporates working out, though sometimes I'll move that later in the day. But it's that mindset, getting into the zone, being grateful, visualizing what are my goals, what do I really want out of life. That was one of the biggest things I figured out. He does this wheel process of what do I want out of my body and my relationship and my kids and my hobbies and my business and my finances. What do I want out of life? And really getting in touch with what does that look like? And now when I write down a to-do list, does this have anything to do with that?
Yeah.
And that was the biggest change I made, is being very conscious about how I spend my days and who I spend them with. You know, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Oh, totally. That is so true. So true. But I love that that point where you say being conscious about what I'm putting on that list and is it serving me? But it's also about being in a conscious state, because otherwise, if you're living life in an unconscious or subconscious mentality, then life just passes you by anyway.
You just react.
Yeah.
By other people's rules. The things you're reacting to were put in your head by your parents before you were 5.
Yeah.
And then the little things after that are put in your mind, either through religion or through school learnings or through your society has built things, religious stuff. These are not your ideas. They've been given to you. You learned like a computer learns from outside stimulus. And true transformation happens when you go in and you start burning away those limiting beliefs from other people. Thank you for everything you've given me, but it's time for me to make choices. I will take everything that it's a beautiful, everything has happened for me, not to me. I get it. It's a beautiful gift, but who am I now and what's next?
I love that. And you were saying then about everything's happened for me. So it's for you to learn from. And, before you went through that experience with Tony and started on that path, what was your life like before that? Were you in that conscious state of realization and understanding of making those choices that what brought you happiness and joy and gratitude?
It's really funny because if I had gone back there and you asked me, oh, that's one of my Tony things, that's an alarm to remind me to be grateful, I will turn that.
Okay, whilst you're on and it's happened for a reason. Can you share that gratitude with us right now?
Okay, so when my alarm goes off, I just sink into being grateful. It's 11:11. So those of you who follow this stuff, it's an appropriate number. So I'll sink into, what am I grateful for today? I'm grateful for being here with you and this opportunity to share.
I am too. Mine's not 11:11 though. I'm 18:11 right now, but it's still on that synchronicity. So thank you for sharing that with us. Go on. So say, what was it like for you before that trajectory happened?
I would totally have said I was living an extraordinary life. Somewhere in my early 20s, I went to a conference. I was started at 16 with the personal development. Early 20s, I found out about goals and goal setting. And before that, I believed everything happened to you if you were lucky. And I just something would happen to me. I didn't actually decide this is what I was going to do and I could take action. I didn't understand that. So then I had that evolution, and that opened up great worlds for me. Then I got into Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits. That changed everything. That's one of the reasons we homeschooled, is because I wanted to live out the 7 Habits in the family book, the 7 Habits for the Highly Effective Family. And I couldn't be that parent if they were in school and we were just reacting to what society wanted from us.
Yeah.
And so that was a key shift for me. We were living our extraordinary life. One of my daughters went to all 8 continents before she was 18, or 7 continents before she was 18, not 8 continents before 17, but 7 continents before she's 18, as part of what she did in her life in terms of that was her mission when she was a kid. And, but our lives were an example for her. We were just doing incredible things all the time. And the money just flowed because when you're in that place of trust and flow, it just does. And we were able to contribute and give with it and just enjoy life. And at the same point, I was pushing away large parts of myself that I had been resisting, and I had been in protection in areas, but I wasn't ready for yet. So at that time I would have said I was happy, but looking back compared to where I am now, I had a lot more evolving to do. I just wasn't there yet.
I love that. And just, stepping back into that you said you were always in a place, even from 16, that started on the self-development and the understanding of coming from a place of gratitude. And, what was it like growing up as a kid? Because as we said, it's already within your DNA.
Yes. Well, should I go ahead and start getting into that stuff now?
Just share with him what it was like for you, because, to have such a great perspective of living your most incredible life at such an early age already, then there must have been support for you to have that kind of connectivity to your process.
Well, I can say this. I had several key adults, and now from all the psychology training that I've had since then, I know how crucial that is. I had several key adults who were there for me to encourage me into different areas. Well, I also had adults that kind of shut me down, and some of them were the same adults because, that's how it all works, right? Because they want the best for you and they don't always agree. I did have adults that would encourage me to try different things and really get into different things. And because everything is a blessing, I was blessed to not want to sleep a lot, which drove my parents nuts. But they would put me to bed at like 7, 8 o'clock at night, and I wouldn't go to sleep till midnight. There was a lot of time in there for me to really develop a lot of things about myself as a small child. Like I did weird things too. Like I can wiggle my nose in 3 different ways, and I can wiggle my ears, and I can cross one eye at a time because I was so bored. But
I have pictures of you doing that right now.
I was a serial entrepreneur from the age of 5. I would go and create businesses under my bed when I didn't get caught. I had this whole setup down there about, okay, this week I'm going to start this business, and this week I'm going to start this one. I was 5 or 6 years old. I'm actually making money in these businesses.
What were they? What were they? Share with us.
So, I would do I'm old, so we would do carnivals with cardboard boxes. I made money doing that. I did craft shows and that kind of stuff. But the big one, the first one that I came up with that actually made money is I went around with my wagon and collected recyclables from people's houses, and I would go and deliver them, and I would give them half the price. I got someone in my family to give me money, and I would collect half the price for the recyclables, and then I would walk them down to the grocery store, 7-year-old me with my wagon, and go turn them in and double the money.
That is incredible. So that was already within you at that very, very early stage. I love that. That is fantastic. So you didn't sleep. You were very creative. You were already in that entrepreneurial state. And so what was your stimulus when you were a kid, kind of having, all that energy?
Well, one of the things, and I guess I'll bring it up now. I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but this totally influences that. I have something called synesthesia.
Okay, guys, so this is the goosebump moment, because this is like really, really super powerful and so interesting and intriguing, and it blows my mind.
Well, thank you. Especially as I share my story, I appreciate that now so much more. So when I was little, synesthesia is essentially what it is it's a crossing of the senses. And it can happen with all the different senses. I have 4 types of the visual hearing crossing, essentially. And so the big obvious one that people understand the most is I see sound, and I have since I was born. I see more than that. I see energy. It's got to be energy waves, because I can see temperature, I can see electrical current, I can see all that kind of stuff. I also have the type where you put colors to all the letters and numbers, and so I can organize things in my head based on the color of the letter. That's how I make grocery lists. I have the one that's time spatial. The way I see timelines is different than most people, I gather. Like I see a circle around my head. I see it stretch out in front of me. I can spin it and touch different times in the timeline. I gather not everybody does this because I've been told recently that's weird, but it works for me. And it's interesting. I was a history major in college. And so it served me in that purpose because I was very easily able to set up a timeline of what was going on and move it around and see the seasons and see the centuries and see those patterns very easily in a very visual, like I can almost touch it kind of visual way. Yeah. So as a kid, how this manifested in my life is, I was bright, and so I had skipped a grade. I was young. I was in first grade. I just wanted to do my work. And I remember going to the teacher and saying, I can't hear anything. And I didn't realize it's because there's so many noises in the room. I got the fan going over there, the teacher talking in front, this kid's wiggling their foot behind me, somebody's tapping their, and there's all the noises these first graders are making, right? And that was my first sign that maybe something was different, but I didn't realize it yet. They went and took me to the hearing doctor, and they kept playing one tone, and I'm like, that's not the problem. Like I can hear that. It's when you put all this other stuff in here, it just gets overwhelming. I can't handle it. I learned how to lip read from that point. Like that's how I learned how to compensate on my own. And then
really,
yeah, so I would, made all the difference in the world if I could see the teacher's face.
Yeah,
and the closer I was to the front of the room, the easier it was for me as well, because I could be closer to that particular sound. But, on a day-to-day basis, I had a collection of rocks, white gravel, but I didn't know they were white gravel. They just glowed different colors. And until my friend came over to me, she's like, they're all white. What are you talking about? They were all rainbowy. And that part of it then disappeared. And, that's typical around 5 years old. That happens. But the other way this manifested for me is I was very involved in music, very involved. In high school, I was in multiple choirs. I was in orchestra. I was in band. I played 7 different instruments by junior.
That is in itself is incredible.
Well, it was my thing. It was my thing. Yeah, I was in musical productions, and I was singing on stage. I was writing music. Like I would, it was beautiful. I would wake up and a song would have been downloaded in my head as pictures, and I just had to get it on paper, and it would happen all the time. And we talked about this before. They thought I had perfect pitch, and who knows, maybe perfect pitch is an element of synesthesia, but I knew that C was like this yellow orange color, and all I had to do was get the color right, and I could sing the right tone. And I would, for the marching band or for our choir, whatever, I would sing out the tone that we needed to start with, or tones, because I just sing the colors that I knew needed to be at that spot. And again, I had no idea at this point I was the only one seeing this stuff. And I now know I'm not the only one who sees this stuff. It just wasn't very common. There are a lot of musicians with this type of synesthesia. Pharrell Williams talks about it openly. Kanye has it. Billy Joel has it. Who is it? Duke Ellington has it. And there's a whole interview about him. He talked about playing the piano. He closed his eyes. He's like, I just daydream. I daydream the music when I play, is how he referred to it. And if you watch interviews with him, it's just so fascinating. But it's like people with this form of synesthesia easily go into the music business, it seems.
Yeah. But they hide it away. But, I just want to step back because, when you just said this, it blew my mind when you were talking about you can see temperature. Now, you can see if a glass of water, what temperature, whether the water is hot, cold, or just warm.
It's by touching. It's the feel. When I touch the water is when I see the color. Wow. So I get in the shower, and it, how it will change temperature, when the spigot, or interesting, when it runs down your body, it cools off.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
Wow. I just see like an orange shower gel kind of running down your, but it's water. That is amazing.
Like this red, white color. And that was the other thing as a kid. The crayons never matched my colors. It was so awesome. I had all these colors that didn't match. Anyway.
That's so frustrating. But when you have the color codes and it's like number 1 to 5, and then you have to do that. Did that help? So 1 is blue, kind of like 3 might be purple. Your own thing.
Like so, these caramely pink colors. There's no crayon that's a caramely pink color. It's like it doesn't even have a name. It's like, but it's a letter F. I can tell you that. So whatever.
So do you know what I want you to share with everybody about these energies? Because you had a certain energy when you were 5 years old that unfortunately you lost and you can never get it back because of words.
Yes, and I was kind of talking about that. I would see before I was 5 energy around trees and energy with rocks. It's got to be the energy of the earth is what I'm figuring out now. And I mistakenly told someone when I was 18 or 19, I thought it was soul energy, and because it made sense to me, and they were very religious and they picked it apart. So speaking of all this falling apart over time of people's words, that was another thing. It's like, what I instinctively knew, they pulled apart and made it didn't function. They kept trying to prove me wrong, and I started to listen. But at 5, I was trying to show my friend the color of these rocks and how pretty they were, and they couldn't see it. And as soon as they told me they couldn't see it, I stopped seeing it too.
And I've never got that back.
Not totally. Like every once in a while, I'll see stuff up. Like I'm in the forest and I'm aware of it, but not like that. Not like just. Those ice cubes that are light bulbs, they have light bulbs in them, you pick them up and they glow. That's what those rocks used to look like. And that's never come back.
Wow. And this was not just you. You had a conversation with your dad about this, didn't you?
Yes. So I was about 18 years old. And I was trying to draw something that somebody was talking about, try and confirm it. And they're like, I don't see what you're saying. I don't know what you're talking about. And so then I started asking other people, and nobody knew what I was talking about, but someone had suggested it might be hereditary and that I should go talk to the family about it. So I went and shared it with my dad, and he had a very negative reaction. It turns out his mother saw this stuff. And he said, yeah, she was institutionalized for it. And then she drank herself to death to make it go away. And that was a defining moment for me. I mean, from that point on, I stopped with the music pretty much. I started shutting things down. I pushed really hard to make it go away because there's something wrong with this. This isn't normal. This isn't right. And this father that I love dearly, who has always been so encouraging, he just didn't understand his mother. And she died when he was a kid from the alcoholism. So, and from a botched surgery. It was a combined deal, but it was a traumatic.
So sad.
Yeah.
And so, once he found out about this, I would say it's a super energy that you have. But obviously, when you go back decades ago, it was massively frowned upon. And you told me that there was somewhere in the north of England that you explain to everybody, because you say it's so much better.
Okay. It was interesting. I've been taking several courses to develop this kind of stuff and get more parameters around it, because I seem to be doing stuff very instinctually, but I'm looking for more so what am I really doing, and how can I get more out of this? Right. I was listening to one of these courses, and she was talking about how this stuff was so frowned upon in England. They just have unearthed another mass grave by a church in northern England where there are found so far over 900 bodies of women over 500 years who were put to death because they were intuitive, because they were the healers, because they were the visionaries, because they had an extra sense or mixed up senses or whatever it is that's going on. It has been that frowned upon. Like, I'm surprised that anybody got out of there alive and that there's anybody left with this stuff, because that's just one church where they got rid of, we talk about the Salem witch trials. That is nothing compared to the persecution of this kind of stuff for so long.
Yeah, because anything that was a little bit woo-woo or a bit strange you were either institutionalized or hung for, being, one of those. But you that was already in your grandmother, so it could have been there for many, many generations. But how was it, you said you started to shut off all of these feelings and visions that you were having from 18, especially when you spoke to your dad about it. So how did you kind of deal with being in normal situations when people weren't understanding how you were living and seeing different colors and lights and sounds and everything else?
Well, I know that I got into some difficult times because I started pushing it away. I got into a relationship that was abusive, actually, at that time. And I allowed it. Now that I've done all this therapy and I've done all this, stuff, growth and personal growth and everything, I didn't know it all happened for me. I mean, I totally get that. I got into, I allowed this to happen because I believed that there was something wrong with me. And that is one of the things. There's nothing wrong with you. If there's one thing I can, this is a gift and this is a superpower. There's nothing wrong with you. If anybody wants to talk, please contact me. If you see stuff and you feel weird about it, please just talk to me or someone else. It's not weird. And it's getting more and more accepted. We are moving into a time when this is important.
Yeah.
So step into this. So I went through that time period. And then by the time I was 30, 35, I had pushed it down so much that I had shut down and started shutting down all my other senses.
Because you were a mum by this time as well. You had 3 children at this point.
3 kids by that point. I was homeschooling by that point. I was running my business at that point. I was pretty successful. The typical American suburban housewife that had it all with the car and the house and the kids in the perfect clothes, that like I was trying to do the perfect life and do what I was supposed to do. And I would say I was even to a certain extent happy, and you can't see me, but I'm doing finger quotes around all of it. And to a certain extent I was, but it wasn't me. Right.
Yeah. You're pushing everything away.
I was like, it was there, but it was back behind my ears, and it reached a point where it was so bad. Okay. So I couldn't smell or taste anything. That had totally gone away. I was having problems with my hearing to the point where it was a problem. I couldn't update my contacts fast enough. By the time they came in, my eyes would have changed enough. Like this became, and then I lost my sense of touch. And I thought it was funny, and I thought it was temporary, and it's starting to interfere with my driving, because I'd be driving and I'd get too many noises and I get these flashes of lights in front of my eyes, and I couldn't handle it. I couldn't see anything. Like it was becoming dangerous. Like this cascaded down over a couple of weeks, and it had been slowly doing this, but this was, and so of course, what am I doing? I'm pushing harder to make it stop. Right.
Yeah.
And I lucked out. We had just hired a new intern in the clinic, and it was my job to teach him bedside manner and what was standard for the clinic. And I jokingly mentioned this, figuring it was like the flu and it would go away or whatever. And over the next 2 weeks, he was able to talk me through. That's when we found out he had a name, synesthesia. And probably there's a lot more to it than synesthesia. You want to go to the psychic stuff or whatever that potentially is going in that realm too. But the synesthesia is what we came up with. And he's like, by pushing away that one thing, you're pushing away all of it, and it needs to stop. And we were able to open that back up. And I was able to go in and get new contacts again, because
so who was this that helped you to recognize that? This intern or?
It was this intern that we had in our clinic who really didn't have any patients yet. Like it was a gift from the universe for sure.
Wow. And he knew that. He
was like, oh, I need to get this out. And then of course, this was a long time ago. It's pre-internet. So I went to the library to go do research on this. The only thing I could find was how it was a learning disability, and how I needed to, now that it was opened up again, I needed to do things to mitigate the consequences. So sound canceling headphones were a new daily part of my life. Really actively learning, consciously lip reading instead of, I was instinctually doing it from a kid because I needed to compensate for stuff. Avoiding situations where there were loud noises, and if there were loud noises, what to do to handle those situations. I could handle concerts because it was just a lot of loud noise from one place and it drowned out the other stuff. But go into big social situations, and my husband was, he was the doctor for the Grammys, the Academy Awards, all that kind of stuff. So we were going to these social parties all the time that just would freak me out on an energetic level, because there's just so much noise, so much stress, so much pressure. All these energies are running high. So I really had to learn how to handle this stuff. And so I treated it like a learning disability. And
it's not, is it? It really is not. Which you know now, but at that time, that's what you were trying to do, because that's what you were told to do. Like you say, there was no internet, there wasn't people encouraging it. It was, I
never met anyone. My grandmother that had it died before I was born. I'd never met anyone with it at that point. There was no free open talking about it. Yeah.
Wow. So what was the next step then? Did you continue to try and shut it out more?
Oh yeah. Until last March or so, social situations, like I was in this coaching group. I am still in this coaching group, and they would have soirees before the events, the training events. And while I couldn't wait to go on one level and get dressed up and see all my friends or meet new people or whatever it was, I would dread them because it was so overwhelming. And I knew there would be music and people talking, and it was just one of those social things that would just drain me and overwhelm me so much I couldn't handle it. And I knew this going into it, so I managed to handle it, right? But I also had things that I had to do in order to get my way through it. I definitely was not in a situation where I was getting energy from it like an extrovert would. Definitely was not that kind of a situation.
Yeah.
And so I was at one of these events, and I had mentioned this is stuff I usually didn't talk about, but I had mentioned in a packet to my coach, what I'd been working with at that point for like 3 or 4 years that all this was going on and other things were opening up for me in my life. I was going through a lot of personal growth at that point. This was about a year ago. And in so many different levels. I was ready. Well, 50 seems to be the age that a lot of things happen. Like if anybody's turning 50, you probably notice a lot of things happen. And I've talked to a lot of other people who've gone through this as well. And so I was in that energetic place of a new evolution of me, right? So I'm going through the personal development. I'm dealing with the traumas from when I was young. I was dealing with learning how to own myself and being done with the homeschooling and owning myself and my purpose. Specifically had asked, I want to know why all this stuff happened for me. I don't want to just know that it did. I want to know what its purpose is. I want to know what my purpose is. I want to know these colors and stuff. Why do I have them? Am I supposed to be doing something good with this stuff? And I want healing. And I went out and I asked for this the 9 months before this event. It's interesting. I'm very much into these 9-month birth cycles of myself, it seems. So I'd asked for that and things proceeded to melt down, in which my coach told me, well, you asked for healing. How do you think you were going to get it? So I wished I'd been clued into that earlier. So I get to this event and she pulls me up on stage and she's like, all right, let's talk about this. And I'm sitting up there and I'm like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting this one, but it needed to happen. And as I shared it and I opened up and I shared about it, she said, you need to make a decision. This is your greatest gift. You're not broken. This is your superpower. This is what you're supposed to bring into your life and your purpose, and you're pushing it away and it's damaging you, because I was starting to have side effects again. It's damaging you. You need to open up to this. And while I wasn't able to do it on stage, of course, there are people, energy from noises and people everywhere. Needless to say, I was overstimulated. I couldn't do it on stage, but we were able to get far enough on stage. And she kept saying, you need to make a decision. That's what you need to do. You've been behind this wall for a very long time. And it's time to open up and let yourself be free. So, and I was like, how?
You had permission to do that. But, being given, not that anybody needs permission, but just having permission from somebody to say, you're free, you can do this.
Oh, yeah, and I've had enough psychology and I've done enough of the personal development. It's so funny how much that mattered to me for some reason.
Yeah.
I heard giving me permission to own myself.
Because you'd built a relationship with, your coach, and I know who your coach is. You'd built that relationship. So it wasn't just another therapy session. This is somebody who's grown to know you, to understand you, and to see everything that you have to give. So, that's that one step even further.
Yeah. And I trusted her.
Yeah.
And trust had been an issue my whole life. Mm-hmm. So the fact that I was able to have that communication with someone I developed trust with was huge as well. That was a big and a major part of my journey, because actually that night we were in Dubai, so 12-hour difference, at least for me. I was wide awake and I had a cry like I'd released so much that night. I cried for like 3 hours, and I'd just come out of 14 years of not a tear. I'd been crying since, but not a lot, but 14 years of not a tear. And I let loose a lot. And I was like, I know how to do this. I have the Tony Robbins training. I know how to make a decision. And what he tells us to do, we have the recipe within us. Yeah. So go back and find a time where I've made a decision before and I knew it. And let's circle around with homeschooling. It's the moment I knew when I saw my daughter with her hand blue that I needed to homeschool. It was a decision I felt in my soul. And so I went and I took that and I was like, okay, what did that feel like? How can I replicate that? And at another Tony Robbins event, I went and jumped off a bridge. He gets you to do all sorts of crazy shit.
You did what?
We jumped off a bridge in the middle of the night into a board coming in, and he's telling us there's sharks and it's a 50-foot drop, and don't worry, I was joking about the sharks. There's these deadly sea snakes down there. The sharks don't like them. So don't worry about the sharks. He's telling all this stuff to scare the crap out of us, right? So we get to the goosebump moment. Yeah. And it's midnight, right? It's the middle of the night. And, we put on these wetsuits and we jump, and it was like 20 feet into this rushing water. And I was the fourth one off that bridge. And usually I would have been the last one. I would have watched everybody. I would have hemmed and hawed, maybe not gone, Yeah, probably would have, because, but maybe not. Maybe I would have talked myself out of potentially. I was the fourth one off, had no problem. I owned it. And it was that free fall, that trust I had when I free fell into that water, I knew a sensation I needed to make the decision. So I got out from behind that wall. I stood on the edge of that cliff, and this is a cavern that I had been watching and seeing, and I knew up level was getting across this cavern. And I'd been focused on the house and trying to build a bridge to get from one side to the other to get to that this glass ceiling we kept bumping into with the business in our lives that we couldn't, why can't I get to the top and then I go back down? What is it? So I went to the edge of this cliff and I jumped, and I trusted that when I jumped, I would be okay. And I had this free fall that, like, even now, as I think about it, was this most beautiful sensation of trust. And when I did it, I could go have a nap.
That is incredible.
The colors went from the back of my head into the front of my eyes. And it was just incredible. So by morning, I knew something had drastically changed because I went into the shower and the water, as it touched me, was full of colors again. And I'd even forgotten that I did this. And I was like, oh, okay, things have changed drastically. I go back down that morning into the conference, and everybody is lit up like a Christmas tree. Okay.
Is that from their energy around them as well?
And the energy around them in different shapes, different sizes. And my mentor was on stage. She is lit up, like glowing like you wouldn't believe. There's a big ball is around her, that this golden light. The top of her head, there's this energy streaming out of her head that's 4 feet, 5 feet wide, that to this day, I've never seen this on anyone else. And she is, and most importantly, she's got this ball of like this coppery rose gold sparkly ball that's out in front of her. And just the energy is incredible. And she keeps talking about going into this queen state and owning yourself and all the stuff. And she's touching this ball and she's manipulating it. It's like, she's got to be able to see this. I can't imagine she can't see this. How can she be playing with this and not know it's there? Like, she'd touch it and I'd see it move, and the energy it was just so incredible. And then I started looking around the room. And I'm looking at these other women, and we're all coaches or therapists or people in that range, and we're all into personal development because that's what the kind of community this is. And all of them had the ball, but they were disconnected in different ways. And not all of them were shielded around the outside. They didn't have that bubble around them that kept them. It's almost like confidence now when I look at it, where you own yourself. Like, other things can come in, or it's only stuck in their head or whatever. And all these different shapes and all these, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's something going on here that is really important and really interesting. And it took me, and interestingly enough, people could see the change in me visually. Like, and I went back and I just actually watched this again a couple of days ago, just because I felt like it was time to renew the learnings from this. I visually had changed too. The structure of my face had changed, the way how my body had changed. Everything had changed in that moment.
That's incredible. Something else happened for you as well, didn't it? Because you'd been gaining weight as well through this whole process of not being connected. And that changed within that day as well.
For sure. So it's very interesting. When I did that jump, what I really did is I let go of the protection.
Yeah.
Actually, it was a mix between being on stage. She had me start talking about things that I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to think about them, let alone tell people. And I had told her, and she was able to get me to talk about it on stage. She's like, there are people out there who heard you. She's like, oh yeah, I'm well aware. She's like, well, that's good. I told you you were smart. But by releasing those secrets, I had opened up to releasing the protection. Yeah. And, part of the abuse is I was raped, and many people are, and weight kept me safe. By being heavy, I didn't feel sexy. By not feeling sexy, I was really pushing away the masculine energy so I wouldn't get myself into that situation again. And I didn't know it, right? All this personal development, I didn't know it. I didn't know that's why a diet wouldn't work. Yeah. And so by letting go of that protection, one of the key things, the analogy that I use with this that makes so much sense is, up until that day, it was like I was holding onto a pier for dear life. And when you go in the ocean and the waves are hitting you and you're standing there and the waves keep hitting and you're just trying to stand up straight, and you're doing everything you can just to stand up. Well, it had gotten so much I was holding onto the pier and the wave just kept hitting me, and I was just trying to stay alive. Yeah. And that's what it all felt like to me. And after I made the jump, it's like I was finally in a floaty, and I was just floating on top of the waves, just up and down and enjoying it. The waves hadn't changed. It was just, I was now in a free flow with it all. And it was enjoyable.
So, you'd gone back to living your most incredible life. at that point, but it was a new life. It was a new release because, on a cellular level, we renew ourselves every 28 days, and we are made up of 50 trillion cells. But your cells had been renewed on the same pattern over and over and over and over again for 50 years, so that immersion into Julie a year ago is the new you. And I have to ask you, if you were to share anything with anybody, you've had to learn everything again over, you are 50 years old, but you're an incredible 50 years old, and everything you have gone through has helped you to become who you are today. So what would you say to somebody else who is not stepping into their true purpose?
Okay, so I think the most important thing, this whole world is built on a dynamic. Either you're in fear or you're in love. Mm-hmm. And stress and overwhelm, those are fear-based emotions. And that's how high-functioning A players work. They work from stress. And it's really just a fear and lack place. And when you make that switch, which for me, one of the main things I teach is you go into gratitude. And you go into gratitude and the fear just disappears. You're in this place of love. Where there's more than enough, you can always share because there's more than enough. There's more than enough clients. There's more than enough information. There's more than enough money. There's more than enough love. There is no lack. There's more than enough everything. And to me, I think the most important thing is the trust. I didn't trust myself. That was one of the key lessons I learned as a child. I couldn't trust all this stuff I was seeing. I couldn't trust myself. And through that, I stopped trusting others. And I stopped trusting God and the divine. So I just didn't trust because I kept telling everything I was picking up was wrong. I would read a book about auras and it didn't match. So I don't know what I'm seeing. I have no idea what I'm seeing, but it doesn't match. And what I try and talk to people about, they tell me it's wrong. So it's about trusting yourself and trusting others and trusting the divine knowledge that comes through is that, and being in the love state. Mm-hmm. That's when magic begins.
And trying to remove the fear and knowing that we need fear for only certain parts of our life when we don't need to live in fear constantly.
Actually, we can get through life with no fear. There are people who do it, who live extraordinary lives. And one big example, when I started looking into this, what love all the time looked like, it was Bob Goff. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he, a lawyer turned, humanitarian who, he wrote the book called Love Does. And he comes from a Christian background with his love. Mm-hmm. But the key is he's always in love. Like he goes and works with these witch doctors in Africa who go take the genitals from children and leave them in the woods to die. Oh, and he's able to love them through this and love those children and love everyone and stop this. He goes out and changes the whole dynamic of the community, both as a lawyer, and this is in Uganda, both as a lawyer and getting these kids out of these situations, and also by changing these witch doctors and their perception of what needs to happen and bringing them to a place of love. So his book, Love Does, is a beautiful testament in terms of what it looks like to spend every day saying yes. And if I were just a loving, giving person, no matter what, no matter who I'm talking to, no matter what situation, that love will make all the difference. And, I can go back to some of the worst moments in my life where there's violence and stuff like that, where fear took over. I wonder now, if I had gone into that situation with a place of love instead, at the very least, it would have been a different experience for me, if not stop the experience. Man's Search for Meaning, is that the one? Yes. Frankl is the author. Man's Search for Meaning. It was written by a Jewish psychologist, I believe, when he was interred in one of the concentration camps. It was up to him about his perception of what was happening to him and the people around him. It is our choice to be happy and in love. And, there's A Beautiful Life, that movie from 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Same thing about being in a concentration camp and needing to keep it being beautiful for his son. Yeah. So, yes, we don't need fear ever. We can let go and be in love all the time.
It's only if we're being chased by something. It's scary.
No, even with that, we can be in love.
So I want to ask you, more about this energy healing that you've stepped into, because, you've made such massive shifts in your own life this last year, and coming from a place of deeper love and coming from a place of understanding where you're at right now, and all of those sensories that you'd lost, your taste, your touch, your smell, even, they've come back.
Everything is back. Everything and more every day. I'm getting more. It is so bizarre. This journey, it's like, I know I've just stepped off the curb and I am just in the beginning of something amazing. And what I'm able to do with this now is already just incredible.
Mm.
One of the outcomes of that event is 2 days later, I was like, okay, if this is a superpower, I'm seeing the queen state. Anybody want to play with me? I don't want to play with my current paying clients. I don't think it's ethical. I want to play with somebody who's willing to interact with me and tell me what's going on and all this other stuff. And I put this post out into the group of women I was at this conference with. Within 6 weeks, 65 women had signed up to do a session with me. And in those 65 sessions, I was able to create a system on how I can go in and take the Reiki training I'd already had. And so now, after this opened up, when people talk to me, I can see, I just listen to them with my eyes, I guess, and I see where the energy is stalled in their body. And we just go in together and go into a meditative state, and we just remove this with the Reiki. And then I go in and I can see where the soul is in them. And we connect them and align them, get them in this beautiful state, and we bring the soul energy into their body. And that's where they start the coaching with me. We start by getting them into connection, and I can do this in an hour with their soul energy. And then you just ask this queen energy, the soul energy, your divine purpose, this part of you that knows why everything is happening for you and not to you. Like it knows, it understands why everything is going on and what you need to learn. And we can ask this part, we can have this a part of us all the time. We can ask, so tell me, what am I supposed to learn from this? What is next? And it's like the answers are just within you. Because this is here for you. And it burns away the conditioning. It burns away this mother story talking in the back of your head that you need to do this, that it's hard to earn money, or that it takes hard work, or, you're not good enough, or whatever these messages that you picked up that aren't even yours. It burns away.
I love
you don't
it.
have to do the therapy. I mean, you have to do stuff. It does wear off after 10 days, 2 weeks, but that's where the coaching comes in. We do the coaching to keep what you learn in this beautiful state a part of your everyday life, to create massive transformation and create the life you're meant to have and stop reacting.
I love that. I love that. And, I can't wait to step in and do one of these sessions with you, because I just know that transformation is so incredible. And, the breakthroughs that you are creating in your clients, and the way that they're moving forward, and the way that you've literally stepped into your superpower and your zone of genius and your purpose and meaning. And to have put that on hold for such a long time and to step into it now is just, I honor you. And it's just incredible that you've allowed yourself to be who you truly are without it being quietened down for any longer. People needed to hear you. You needed to hear you. And so many more are in need of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you, I know that we could just carry on talking for so much longer, and I've hidden when I've had those goosebumps moments throughout the last hour or so, but when I hear you talk about how you were on that stage and how you really stepped into your power, and how, you cried and you've been able to cry and you've been able to release all of those things, and how you are now loving everything, and how you are in love with who you are, regardless of the weight, regardless of that protection, that's now gone and it's continuing to go, and you're focusing on being your healthiest self, because and that's one of the key points. You can eat all the veggies and all the greens that you like, but if you're holding on to all of that stress and all of that protection, it doesn't make you a well and healthy person.
That is true. It does not. It just sinks in your body and creates havoc and illness.
Well, it does. It creates the disease that is going around in the world right now because of that stress and tension and lack of self-belief and confidence that's been put into our heads, like you said, from a young age. So I am just so thrilled that you've been able to take this journey and create so much more within your life. And, you know, not without its costs, both financially, emotionally, and within relationships. That's happened for you. And it will happen for many people who are ready to step into who they're truly meant to be, because sometimes you have to cut those cords.
Yes. Yes. But when your soul's ready, it's easier than you had any idea, is what I found.
Yeah, I love that. I have 2 questions to ask you before we go. What is one of life's biggest lessons that you can share with everybody?
It's got to be the trust, gratitude, love yourself thing. That's where the magic is. You just do whatever it takes to really love and get to know yourself, love yourself, accept yourself 100%. Don't hide these things that you want to hide and not tell anybody. That's what makes you really interesting. You know, go tell someone you trust. You'll find out it's not so bad, that they think you're fun. They think you're interesting, you know, then it just spills all out. There's very few things I won't talk about on the internet. And it's not because I don't want people to know anymore. It's because there's certain people I don't need to share their stories, you know, but it's, you know, I'm an open book now. And you know, that the freedom with that, the fact that I can love myself through that, the fact that I trust that all of this is happening for me, not to me, that's the biggest life lesson, just to own that, get in touch with that connection and
love that.
Be in gratitude.
Amazing. And, you know, this is one more question. And how does living your most vibrant life look and feel now?
Wow. There have been months at a time where I have been indescribably happy, where I woke up every morning and I couldn't even believe life could be this good. There's been that. I just did a live on this yesterday because I did a training on it Wednesday about stepping into the uncomfortable and pushing outside your comfort zone. And the greatest joy comes when you do that. And it's almost like you can celebrate when it happens now. It's still not fun to get. I dealt with something on Wednesday I'd waited 20 years to deal with, and it was not comfortable, and it was terrifying in the beginning. And I'm so grateful I had that release.
Wow.
It's done. What will happen will happen. I know I did my part. And I stepped outside my comfort zone in like 4 areas that day. It was a very transformational day for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been amazing. You know, I have a new body. I have a new life. I have new friends. I have new everything. And sometimes I am shocked by how much change has happened, but it's beautiful. And I'm happy, and I love my life and myself.
And I think I just want to, you know, congratulate you as well in being so courageous, because it was courage. I know that you say some people don't feel fear at all, but you were courageous to enable to what you put away for such a long time was having that courage to own it.
Yes.
I love it. Juli, it has been an absolute pleasure. I have just honestly goosebumps all the way through, but I am sat here in Vienna wrapped up warm so that the goosebumps kind of disappear a little bit quickly and don't hang around. And listen, to make these life-changing opportunities available to our amazing listeners, how can they get hold of you so they can contact you and learn more about what it is that you're doing to make these transformations?
Yes. Okay. My website is a really good place to go. JuliGaulthier.com. Let me spell it because it's kind of weird. JuliGauthier.com. And then I'm all over Instagram and Facebook. And if you search my name there, either place it'll come up. My Instagram is JULIG47. And I have something called Something Bigger Movement. I have that both on Instagram and on Facebook. I got a Facebook group called Something Bigger Movement. And those are the key places. If you want a discovery call with me, message me on either one of those. Message me through my website. There are links for a discovery call. in Facebook, but the one that's most obvious I'm directing to people to right now is in my profile, in my Linktree area in Instagram. That's right there. I will, even if you just want to talk about this and you're curious about anything, it doesn't even have to be about coaching with me necessarily. You want to talk, I would love to share. You have synesthesia or something else, you see stuff and it's freaking you out, talk to me. I've met so many people in the last year that if it isn't something that I'm currently experiencing, I can probably get you in touch with somebody who is, let you know you are not crazy. I just spent 50 years believing I was crazy. You are not crazy. There are so many more out there, and this is your greatest gift. It's your superpower. Time to own it and just really feel into it.
Amazing. I love that. I will put all the links in the comments so people know where to go and they can find it and they can find you and they can, like you say, absolutely step into their superpower and own every part of themselves that they may have been hiding for way too long. So I want to wish you the most incredible day. And I thank you again so much for your time of being on here with me and sharing with our listeners that, you know, it's never, ever too late to listen to what you're meant to be here for.
No, it's not.
Thank you, darling. Have an amazing day.
Thank you so much.
So I want to say a huge thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast. I really am so grateful for all of you. We are so grateful for all of you that are tuning in and that if you feel that you have got value from this podcast, if you feel that there's so much more that you want to hear, then please do go over to iTunes, leave a review, and share this episode with some of your best friends or people you know would also really, really get value from it. We only grow through you and we're only here because of you. We want you to know that each and every woman out there, we are supporting you, we have your back, and we really want to bring you as much value as possible. So from all of us here at Vibrant Balanced Health, we want to say thank you so much for listening to us today. Your honesty is so important, and we really, really just want to help more and more women live their more vibrant life and create impact. And that only happens with your support and with your connection to share this message with thousands of women. So thank you so much for stopping in. And if you feel called to, please do hop on over, leave a review, say hi, leave your comments, let us know what you'd like to hear more of, and we will be sure to bring you even more value over and over again.